Webinar on AI and IoT in Real Estate, hosted by QeCAD in association with Emily Zakurzewski from Benesch.
Hello, Emily.
On behalf of entire QeCAD team, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to each one of you for joining us today. We are truly delighted to have such an enthusiastic audience here for this insightful session on AI and IoT in real estate. Today's webinar is designed to explore on how emerging technologies are reshaping the way we design, build, and manage the spaces. We believe that this discussion will spark new ideas, open meaningful conversations for everyone in the real estate and AEC community. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce our distinguished speaker, Emily. She is a civil engineering designer from Benesch, who brings with her vast expertise and forward-thinking perspectives on innovation in real estate. Emily has been at the forefront of driving technology-led transformations, and today she will guide us through how AI and IoT are becoming the cornerstone of smarter, more efficient, and future-ready developments. So we are looking forward to a thought-provoking session, so let's get started.
All right, thank you for that lovely introduction. So I'll be presenting on artificial intelligence and Internet of Things for real estate applications. I'm currently tuning in from Boston, where I attended university, and I'm currently working full-time. I've been increasingly interested in the intersection between civil engineering and emerging technologies. My goal is to help stakeholders from asset managers to community members to developers to understand how to create lower cost development and optimize the efficiency of projects, especially with the state of the world right now and all things considered. And considering the traditional path that the construction industry has taken and how other industries have adopted artificial intelligence so readily, I definitely want to provide some more education and knowledge behind these technologies so that to build confidence really and minimize risk within our industry. So I already had a lovely introduction, but just to give a little more credibility to my background, I am currently working as a civil engineer. I have 2 to 3 years of professional engineering experience, and I am right now working for Benesch, who provides civil engineering services. And I genuinely think that my technical background has really helped with the practical understanding of how these technologies can be specifically integrated during design and construction. But more previously from that, I also worked for a capital management company. And so I learned how cash flows work within development. I learned a little bit about the underwriting process and what is important to point out for owners in order to make these investments seem a lot more useful for their projects. And even before that, I studied at Northeastern University in Boston, as well as did a few months in New Zealand studying at Auckland University, where I learned the frontier of emerging technologies for construction. I even tested some of these technologies out myself, including virtual reality. So I have firsthand been able to see the capabilities and the power of these technologies. So I'm excited to get started. So today we're going to go over, I want to give a little bit of context to development as a whole. What are the stages of development, the types of commercial properties? I think it's important to break it down because there are so many different components to development that some of these technologies, and especially the ones I'll be discussing, have more relevance and have more opportunity to be maximized within, I believe, the construction and the operations component. Currently working for a civil designer, we are starting to use artificial intelligence within our reporting, which I think is pretty exciting, as well as a little bit of Internet of Things for our inspections. Then we're going to go into, I'm going to mention the problem that we're going to be trying to address, the solution, which is the title of this presentation. I also think it's really important to understand the definitions of artificial intelligence and Internet of Things specifically for this application, and how the two are really maximized use together. Then we're going to go over specific use cases and a very small case study at the end of a Boston-owned new building within Seaport. That's pretty exciting. So within the stages of development, this can be broken down quite a bit, but I really wanted to focus on this construction and operations and sale component of development, because that's where I think that there's definitely still a bit of fear or risk associated with investing in these technologies within these components, because the construction and operations and sale move so quickly and there's so many moving parts that, you know, contractors obviously want to minimize risk as much as possible. So integrating new technologies, unsure of how the workers are going to be able to utilize them, presents a bit of fear and drawback. So during the construction component, obviously the contractor builds, punch lists are drawn, inspections are performed, but simultaneously marketing to future tenants is deployed. And so visibility on site is a very powerful tool to be able to demonstrate to tenants what is capable and what they are signing up for before it's completely finished. And then in the operations and sale component, the asset managers are now thinking about operational maintenance, they're reporting to investors, and you're wanting to meet financial goals. So the stakeholders, I defined what I think the main stakeholders during each of these components are. And during construction, obviously the community and the tenants, the future tenants, are a large stakeholder, as they are the ones who are being marketed to. They're kind of signing up for a development that they're not sure exactly what entails yet. And the asset managers are a very important component, because they're the ones who are trying to make sure that they fulfill the needs of the community and the tenants, that the promises they're making to the people coming in are going to be fulfilled. And then during the operations and sale, obviously the tenants are a large stakeholder here too, as if you consider retail or office and multifamily. If they're spending most of their days in this property and this building, they want to make sure that they're going to be comfortable, they're going to feel safe, and they're going to have all their needs met. And the owner is a very large stakeholder within the operations and sale, as now moving past construction, we're into operational, the operational component, which energy systems and cost of utilities, that it is a large part of their cost. So now that is the most important component after construction completes. So I think it's important to talk about the different types of commercial properties. I kind of laid out the main 4 ones that I'm going to address. And because certain Internet of Things and artificial intelligence technologies applies more to one of these versus another, one of these types of properties versus another, because they have a unique set of needs. If you think about office and multifamily, this is where people are mostly going to be spending their time, where they're going to be living. So I think in these buildings, the owner and the property manager are going to be looking for control, like climate control, how to have the most comfortable environment. Whereas in retail and industrial, they may prioritize process monitoring, safety compliance, equipment health, especially in industrial. If they're using a lot of equipment, they want to make sure to prolong the life cycle of their equipment and make sure everything's running properly for the sake of their business. So some of the largest problems that we're seeing to development is rework. It's become increasingly hard to lay out the underwriting and investment process for a development, not knowing how much of it may need to be reworked. Right now, we're seeing around 12% of the total project cost being just rework in terms of something not being performed properly, and then you have to go back later on, usually at the end of the construction, which takes additional time. They're losing money holding the property. So I'm thinking, and we've seen through case studies, that Internet of Things and artificial intelligence together really help to reduce this rework component. There's skilled labor shortage, changing building codes, especially coming from Boston and Massachusetts. We have some of the strictest building codes in the country, and every few years they're changing, and it's difficult to keep track of all the changing parts. So being able to be tapped into the internet and knowing exactly when these building codes are changing to stay on top of the codes is important. And then there's material cost and economic uncertainty. And while there's not much control over the economic uncertainty, all of these deal with risk, and utilizing relevant artificial intelligence and Internet of Things will really work to reduce this risk as a whole, to make the processing decisions, or to make the cash flow more clear, and you're understanding where exactly to invest your money ahead of time versus reacting later on. So now we're going to discuss the synergy of artificial intelligence and Internet of Things. Many of you probably, hopefully, understand what artificial intelligence is. It's becoming a lot more useful and more publicly available, which is great, but maybe you don't as much understand what Internet of Things is and how this plays into it. So Internet of Things is great because it enables any object to be connected to the internet through a network of interconnected devices and softwares. You can connect, in the case of a faucet, you can connect a faucet to the internet through this concept of Internet of Things. And no, the faucet doesn't spew Wi-Fi to the cloud, but what happens in reality is that there's these sensors, and we can still call it a smart sensor, that will be physically attached to this faucet, and smart sensors vary in their focus. You can have environmental, humidity controls, temperature controls. It can pick up all this data. So if you attach to a faucet, maybe it will measure the flow. And then usually we're dealing with, on the lower cost end of things, you're going to have sensors that aren't connected specifically to the Wi-Fi. So usually you'll need a gateway or a device on the grounds or in the building that will collect the data from that sensor, and then it will organize the data for you, because this is dealing with a lot of points, a lot of data points, and which takes up a lot of energy. So it kind of breaks it down to the most important. Then that is sent to the internet. So this gateway is a really important component because that connects to the internet, which when all this data is in a cloud, it can then be accessed from anywhere. And that is where the artificial intelligence can come into play, where decisions can be made and data processing is actually turned into actionable insights. So the artificial component really enables automated operation and predictive maintenance, where the Internet of Things was the physical connection and the collecting of data. That's kind of where it ends. And so integrating artificial intelligence into IoT, into this cloud, or having a dashboard where the data is taken in, and then the artificial intelligence component actually makes decisions. Say that the smart sensor detects a leak somewhere on this faucet. The artificial intelligence can pick up the pressure is lowered, and now the artificial intelligence will decide to shut off the system until a maintenance worker can come in and fix it, and hopefully prevent this leak turning into mold or another issue. So now we're going to talk about the specific use cases. So I kind of highlighted the main use cases that we're seeing today. There's definitely a lot more, and I specifically highlighted these to then address the largest problems and the most costly problems that we're seeing. So if we look at RFID tags first, which RFID just stands for radio frequency identification. And these little tags, about the size of your finger, can be used for this concept called just-in-time sourcing. And you can have either passive or active tags. The passive tags are the ones that are physically put onto let's say 2x4s, and are, when being processed, you can scan them instead of someone manually writing and counting how many objects there are or materials there are. They can just be scanned and then all collected into this one database. There's also potential for active tags. Those are much more expensive, with passive tags being under $1 each, anywhere from 10 cents to $1. The active tags can be anywhere from $10 to $50. And that's just because they may have their own connection to the internet. And so obviously those are for more powerful capabilities. But if you're just looking to begin investing in technology for a project and development, you may want to start with the passive tags. So the materials and equipment are tagged with the RFID. And then when the stock levels drop below a predetermined threshold, and this is where artificial intelligence comes into play, the artificial intelligence itself can be programmed to have this predetermined threshold, say 100 units. If you drop below 100 units, then the data-driven AI can then be programmed to order the next delivery in time for the user to automatically replenish stock. And overall, this reduces the need for material storage and expedites construction timelines. And RFID, just-in-time sourcing, plays into this notion of critical path during construction. There are some components of construction that have 0 float days, which means that nothing else can be done post this one component if the materials aren't in place. And like an example is curing concrete. You can't move on to the next steps of construction until the concrete is fully cured. So that stands as a 0 float day component. Next, we have smart sensors. I wanted to highlight a specific apartment building within my very own neighborhood, Boston, and I can attest to the age of this building walking past it every day. It was built in the early 1900s, and in the last 4 years, they actually underwent a redevelopment, putting about $30 million into this renovation, and that went into retrofitting the building. And something that they really looked into was connecting the entire building to the internet through this building intelligence platform. And this specific case study, they use this program called Imbue, which really connects all the smart sensors that they installed into the building to a platform, to a digital platform that you can access from computer, tablet, iPhone, which is great for property managers if they need to make fixes for any of the tenants. They included smart thermostats all throughout the building to control heating and cooling, which is really important, especially as climate variability is increasing. We're seeing over the summers many more over 90 degree Fahrenheit, 30 degree Celsius days. And so being able to optimize the cooling and heating is really important for energy usage and cost. And especially with a building this old, I imagine a lot of the cooling and heating loads are being dispersed through the building envelope. So hence they supplemented with a retrofit. But based on these on this apartment type, multifamily buildings in Boston, we're seeing an initial installation and hardware costs of around $200 to $600 per unit, including these smart thermostats, IoT sensors, and this building intelligence platform, plus this monthly subscription for the platform. But afterwards, you're seeing a 20 to 30% savings in energy use. And some reports, some white papers produced in Boston, corroborated by McKinsey reports, have seen that implementing these specific types of technologies provide a return of investment timeline at 2 to 4 years. So if you're looking at a hold from 5 to 10 years, this could be extremely beneficial for the cost of the building. And obviously, if you're selling it later on, this is very favorable to the next owner who now has control and can see the data. So moving on to this management dashboard, I just wanted to highlight some companies that offer their platform services, and it can range anywhere from construction monitoring to property management, and some can be integrated to do both. And what's really great about these management dashboards that integrate Internet of Things is that they create reports for you. It's with all the data at one spot. You can usually print the data, and as I mentioned before, with building codes and standards increasing, it's really valuable to have a united dashboard where all the information lies, to save time for your employees and just be able to access this information, which also provides more purchasing or choice power. This remote management component is really great if there's not, to be able to connect to your tenants and understand what's going on with the building if you're far away. This tenant vendor communication, where some platforms allow for the tenants to reach out to the property manager through the platform, to be able in tune with those stakeholders, and overall efficiency gains by being able to understand how much energy is put into the building. You can then make choices such as, investing in heat pumps, or if your current energy systems are not efficient enough. And these platforms really vary for property type based on how powerful they are and expensive they are. Something like SmartRent is great for smaller multifamily student housing buildings, as it provides most of the components that you'd love: property management, financial controls. This one doesn't have construction monitoring, but Procore, Outbuild, ArchDesk do. So you can make your decision based on what property you're looking to invest in or develop. So drones and 360 cameras. So this is a great technology for phasing technology use into project, as this is more of like a one-time purchase, and you really only need to focus on training someone for the permitting. My company, Benesch, we currently have people who are getting drone certifications, and I can attest that it seems like a very streamlined process. And during construction, you may use it weekly or bi-weekly, and we're seeing that pre and post construction, you'd use it 1 to 2 times. This is great for more visual on-site, great for marketing materials if you're getting a higher view of the area and the site. And if you connect it with artificial intelligence, it can create 3D topographical scans, which you can supplement to surveys, which can just add more data points and minimize risk when designing a project. So now we're going to talk about augmented and virtual reality. This is a technology that I'm probably most excited about just because of the potential, and I definitely don't think it's being maximized to the use. But I'm sure many of you have seen the virtual reality goggles, and this kind of plays into it, but now they have it on mobile devices. They have it on tablets, where you really can just point your camera at a floor space, a design. Maybe it's during construction right now, and it has the capability to overlay the design, whether from Revit or AutoCAD, onto the current layout. So whether in this image you see here, whether this structure is in the building or not, it will show you the current lines and maybe the discrepancies of the as-built versus the design, which could be great for catching issues early on, preventing this rework issue. It may be a bit more expensive if you're purchasing a headset, specifically $300 to $1,000, but a headset isn't necessarily needed, you could just have it an application on a tablet, which software licensings can be like $500 per device. And there's a bit of cost with hiring external consultants for training, or if you want to do it in-house and have a point person, that could be a great option as well. So current development issues, water intrusion. Water intrusion is a big one. Seeing on the East Coast, along the entire East Coast, with it's hurricane season right now, it's raining a lot, and we're seeing a lot of weather-related events leading to water intrusion in roofs. And working for the capital management company, I firsthand saw how large of a cost roof replacements and water intrusion really is to the entire project. And if you can extend the life cycle of a roof or the siding, that would probably be most optimal for return of investment later on. And obviously there's human error related to this. If a tenant forgets to shut off their sink, there could be flooding, plumbing concerns. As I previously mentioned, there's capabilities for smart sensors within for this water intrusion case. You can attach a sensor to plumbing, which will measure the flow, and you can invest in these smart water shutoff systems that will measure the flow. And with the artificial intelligence programmed into it with enough data, it can begin to understand at what point there needs to be maintenance, at what point the valve needs to be shut off if there's too much water flowing through it. Within the roof, you can attach temperature and humidity sensors to be able to catch when there's a leak starting to prevent mold and issues later on. So another costly repair within construction can be gravel piles. Sometimes concrete doesn't cure properly. Sometimes the angle of the piles is incorrect. And later on, after the entire building is completed, one would have to go back and repair. And if we're using the example of a medium-sized New England building, there could be around 10 to 30 gravel piles within the building. And so if you wanted to invest in these Internet of Things devices, it would be a combination of these 4 devices on the bottom here, and you'd maybe need around 5 to 10 devices per pile, which equates to around $2,500 of investment in these Internet of Things devices per pile, which may seem like a high initial investment, but if you're seeing this problem across multiple developments and you consider the fact that it costs up to $20,000, 8 times the initial investment for Internet of Things devices to repair a single one of these piles, it may then seem like a good investment. So along this train of thought, we have concrete curing monitors, which can allow for, within the same multifamily size asset, can be around 10 to 30 sensors required, around $200 to $300 per sensor, which this can be great also for the reporting aspect. As I previously mentioned, being able to show inspectors that the concrete is at the quality that it needs to be in order to move on. I previously mentioned how the concrete pouring has 0 float days, and you really can't continue the construction timeline without having the floor set, the beam set. So being able to monitor exactly and the pace at which the concrete is curing allows for more decision making and to continue the project timeline. And yeah, this reporting aspect is really important. Early detection is great too. Being able to sense when there's an issue, as concrete curing takes around a month to do, even longer perhaps. It's important to know if it's not curing properly, and so you can intervene early and, you know, save a good amount of money with ensuring that they cure properly. And below, I've just kind of listed some virtual dashboards that are being used today for concrete curing purposes. Now I kind of just want to touch on a small case study. PTC is actually a CAD software company, so it's understood to see why they would use so many Internet of Things devices and artificial intelligence when it came to their new development of their headquarters in Boston Seaport. Here are some marketing images that they actually produced during the construction of this. And what's so impressive is that you almost can't even tell which of these are artificial intelligence or not due to the quality of the images. And so you can really just tell the power of the marketing for this. And while PTC did develop these headquarters for their own employees, this really allows the community to get involved and, provide support through inspections and pushing forward with the project. So a little overview about these headquarters. They occupy the upper 9 floor spaces of this building. This project was around 250,000 square feet. So when considering their very aggressive timeline of 7 months, you can very well assume that the accomplishment of this timeline was due to their integration of BIM modeling during construction, their use of IoT cloud, and their AI platforms. All the types of sensors they included within this building are motion sensors, temperature sensors, light detectors or light sensors, and equipment maintenance sensors. So during their construction, they utilized this BIM modeling, this virtual reality component that I mentioned before, where they are able to compare as built to the design to detect issues early on, which allowed for this 7-month timeline. And also they connected all of their smart sensors to this IoT cloud to be able to manage from one dashboard. And another great tool that they implemented was these AI platforms, which were able to detect if there's a person in a conference room through these motion detectors and heat sensors to decide if the room was occupied or not, which then was sent to this AI platform to decide that there's no one in the room and now the room can be booked for conference use or meeting, etc. So moving along with their BIM coordination, you could see all the images on the left were through their augmented reality, where they compared their design with their as-built to the right. And what's great about this is it allows you to visualize all the MEP systems in the building as well. I actually worked for an MEP firm in the past, and I can attest to how difficult it can be sometimes to fit all the systems between the floors. So being able to visually identify where the energy systems are going to be placed ensures that there's no overlap or there's enough space for all the systems necessary for such a large building. And also, this just demonstrates further the marketing power of being able to see the space and the relation to the size of the person. Just really ensures that it is fulfilling tenant comfort and the goals of the building project itself. And so that is really all I have today. Please feel free to ask questions in the chat. There's so much more to all these technologies, and I could really spend hours talking about it, but I wanted to provide a brief overview of each of these just to gain some understanding and knowledge so that hopefully any of you can go and now advocate for these technologies to be used within your future developments. Thank you.
Yeah, Jose is asking that how can we apply this technology for smaller and faster scale projects like events?
No, that's a great question. And if I had more time, I definitely would have specified more about the scale of all of these. And for some of these technologies, I mentioned how they're great for phasing. I think the drones and the 360 cameras are great to start with smaller projects because those are more of a one-time purchase. And even if you're concerned about the permitting and the training for drones, 360 cameras, extremely easy to operate. And those can just be used during inspections. If one person or engineer is going through the building, they can hold the 360 camera and then just record their entire path through the building, so that that video can then be accessed by other team members, other engineers designing, other teams that need visual access to the site but don't have the capability to go in person themselves. So 360 cameras would be a great way to start. I talk about all these different types of smart sensors, and you don't have to start out by using all of them. There's obviously temperature, humidity, concrete, motion. And if you're looking at more multifamily office, I mentioned how tenants may want more climate control or environment control. So you may only want to look at temperature sensors and humidity sensors or lighting, whereas in a retail and industrial, they want more control of their equipment efficiency. So maybe you look into just those types of sensors to start.
Okay. I think that clears everything. We have few more.
All right.
Yeah, Jose is saying thanks. So that means that he has understood. So now the other come here, it comes like, how does AI help reduce time in pre-construction?
Timing pre-construction?
Construction.
During
Like,
construction.
Yeah, pre-construction.
Yeah, so I can honestly answer pre-construction and during construction. I think reporting is a very big component of the construction process, and being able to have all the information necessary for when inspectors come, for when you're producing reports to the state, is really important. So AI can really, if you're talking about environmental permits, AI can really compile the necessary information, and that's something that I've seen being utilized within all the engineering companies I've worked for, especially in the recent year. It just really saves a lot of time from finding specific information. And then during construction, I talk about potentially the RFID tags, where the RFID tags are the physical Internet of Things component, but by integrating AI and having AI decide when you drop below 100 units, as I said, to automatically replenish, so that you can move along with the timeline without having someone to go and specifically order themselves. Using AI in that sense could be great as well.
Okay, so like, what can be the biggest opportunities for AI and IoT in real estate in next 5 years?
Well, I honestly think just more integration of all of these technologies. I think a difficulty of utilizing multiple of these technologies in the past have been how they've been integrated into each other, like having a platform that can integrate all of these instead of having multiple separate components. Like, for example, utilizing these smart sensors. Only recently have I been seeing that you can attach all of these sensors to one platform, which just makes it a lot easier to phase into the project. Whereas if you have to have multiple types of sensors that have different platforms, that is much more difficult to keep track of, and also even just use the information to your benefit. Because obviously, if you're investing in these technologies, you want to be able to maximize their use. So what's great about, I think, the direction that we're going in is that these companies are now more working together to get a sense of what is necessary on site to be able to attach all these different devices to the same exact platform, and then have those platforms organize the information for you.
Okay, and how can we automate the repetitive tasks using AI and IoT?
I think about the reporting aspect of it again. I currently work on a lot of reports right now, and there is a lot of repetition in every project. You have to do the same type of report, and there's really only minimal information that has changed through project. So being able to input perhaps a template into AI, and then the AI asking you what are the varying components of this project, putting those in, and then having the AI spit out the report back to you with the new information that you put in could be really great. For construction, I'm thinking inspections are performed on a very consistent basis, and oftentimes engineers are really just looking for the problem spots. So being able to have this augmented reality compare the as-built to the design can allow you to catch issues that you may not have been looking for in the first place or seen. So those can really help with the repetitive tasks of the construction process.
Okay, and Francis is asking what are the cost-saving opportunities of integrating IoT devices in large-scale AEC projects?
Yeah, so I think this really comes down to the operational energy that goes into building maintenance. If you think about lighting, sometimes during the day, if you're having lots of natural light through the windows, you don't need to have the full power of the lighting in the entire office. There are so many cases now of IoT devices that can pick up what time of day it is, pick up the amount of light that is coming through externally through the building in order to maximize the level of brightness of the lights inside the building. So that just really lowers the energy use and cost, especially if your lighting systems or your energy systems are inefficient and they just take a lot more input versus the output that you're getting. It could be great for lighting. Also, I know motion detectors are a really important part. If there's a lot of rooms in my office today that are being underutilized, and however, the entire office is lit up the same amount. So being able to have those motion detectors that can detect if there's not someone in the room to turn off the lighting and also control the temperature. If there's no one in the room, it doesn't need to be as warm or hot as maybe in the rest of the parts of the office. So it will automatically turn on when a person is detected, which could be great for energy savings.
Okay, so not only on a bigger scale, but we can start with smaller day-to-day routine tasks, and we can use AI as an assistant in our daily activities. Got it, Emily. I think Jose has one more question. On reporting dashboards, which one you recommend for small, fast-scale projects? They have a 250 square meter booth, 2 stories, and only 3 days built up. Now, how to use this dashboard to report every 6 hours to the client?
So I'm going to go back to that dashboard. So these are only a few platforms. And if it's a smaller building, I think it depends on construction monitoring versus property management. As some of these only offer one or the other or both. Maybe I would look at something like Procore. That one is for larger though, but if you're looking at just property management, I'd perhaps recommend the Smart Rent. And what's great about these dashboards is I believe that they can be programmed to how often they refresh the data. Some of these are live, so they demonstrate the data as being seen right at that moment in the building. So if you can almost create a report at any moment, at a moment's notice. not just every 6 hours. If you have smart sensors that are picking up the data on a live basis, and that can depend. If you don't, you can program the remote gateway to which all the data is being sent to organize the data on a 6-hour basis, if that's what you're looking for.
Okay. Okay. Okay, Emily, I believe that's it. Jose, do you have any other questions, or like, did you get the answer for this one? I think
that's it.
yeah, I think that's it.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Emily, for sharing your valuable insights and expertise on this topic. And thank you so much, everyone, all the attendees, for joining us today and making this webinar a success. We truly appreciate your time and engagement. We know how busy today's schedule is for everyone, and we truly appreciate the time which you took out to attend this. And we will keep hosting such seminars, webinars, and yeah, keep joining us and keep being the part of this valuable knowledge sharing experience. We look forward to connecting with you in future sessions.
Of course. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Dolly, for organizing such a lovely webinar, such a lovely event, and connecting so many people at one place.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.